Welcome to my today's video, Introduction to System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager. The objective of this lab is describe the Configuration Manager 2012 R2 console terminology, navigate around the Configuration Manager 2012 R2 console, use the search and filter capabilities of the Configuration Manager 2012 R2 console, identify new Configuration Manager features in Configuration Manager 2012 R2. It will take approximately 75 minutes. There's one server used in this presentation called Primary 1. 1. Exploring the System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager console. In this exercise, we will explore the Configuration Manager 2012 R2 Administrator console. This will provide the terminology and experience necessary for other hands-on labs that we may participate in, as well as for testing in the own lab environments. The lab references Primary 1 as the virtual image that the lab is to be completed on. Step 1. Viewing the Configuration Manager 2012 R2 installation folder. Start Windows Explorer and then under Computer, the local disk. The content in the root of Drive C appears in the result pane. Notice that there are folders titled Program Files, which is for a 64-bit application, and Program Files x86, which is for a 32-bit application. Expand Local Drive and then click Program Files. The contents of the Program Files folder appear in the result pane. Notice that there is a folder titled Microsoft Configuration Manager. This is the default location for Configuration Manager 2012 R2 site server installation. Configuration Manager 2012 R2 is a native 64-bit application for the site server and all of the site systems, with the exception of supporting both 32-bit and 64 distribution points. Under Local Disk, click Program Files x86. The contents of the Program Files x86 folder appear in the result pane. Notice that there is also a folder for Configuration Manager 2012 R2 titled Microsoft Configuration Manager. This is the Configuration Manager console which supports running on both 32-bit and 64-bit operating systems. The folder is titled Admin Console. Click Start. Click All Programs, expand Microsoft System Center 2012 R2, and then expand Configuration Manager. The program menu group items for Configuration Manager 2012 R2 appear. Notice that the following items in the Configuration Manager menu group is Configuration Manager console to manage a site or hierarchy, deploy software, etc. You will spend the entire lab in the console. Then, Configuration Manager setup to upgrade or install all site as well as perform a site maintenance or site recovery process. And Remote Control Viewer, used to launch a Remote Control Viewer outside the Configuration Manager console. This allows the administrator to establish a remote control session to a Configuration Manager client. And Software Center, which is an end-user program installed on clients for launching deployment target on the computer. In this menu, we click Configuration Manager console. The System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager console window appears, displaying the Assets and Compliance Workspace overview page. Notice that the window title displays the Configuration Manager site code and site name at the console is connected to. Notice that Configuration Manager 2012 R2 uses the common System Center framework for its administrator console and no longer relies on an MMC interface as previous version of Configuration Manager and SMS 2003 used. The following terminology will be used in this and other labs we might take on Configuration Manager 2012. Workspace. This is a set of large bars in the bottom left window pane. The workspace provides high-level features or topics that can be accessed to perform duties such as administration of a site, managing software, monitoring a site, and managing assets and compliance data. When a workspace is selected, the reminder of the Configuration Manager console reflects the workspace accessed. The default workspace selection is Assets and Compliance. The navigation pane. This is the area located above the workspace in the left far window pane. The navigation pane nodes that are displayed are dependent upon the workspace selected. In the Configuration Manager 2007 console, this was referred to as the tree pane. The default navigation pane nodes are for the Assets and Compliant workspace. Result pane. This is the large window pane that appears in the middle of the Configuration Manager console. The result pane displays objects based on the node or item selected in the navigation pane. The result pane is comprised of a result pane, a preview pane, and a search box. See below for more information on these items. Preview pane. This is the bottom portion of the results pane. When the results pane is split into horizontally, and when it appears, display additional details about the object selected in the result pane. Ribbon. This is the set of action or tasks for the selected navigation pane, node or results pane item selected, as well as any item selected in the preview pane. The ribbon replaces the task pane from Configuration Manager 2012 Beta 1 and the action pane from Configuration Manager 2007. Search box. This is a box that appears at the very top of the result pane and below the ribbon that allows you to enter text for filtering the results of a result pane. Also notice that the overview page displays a navigation index section that includes a listing of navigation pane nodes. Below the nodes are descriptions of what administrative tasks can be completed from that node. The node in the navigation index section are links to the appropriate navigation pane node. Notice that there is a section below the navigation index for any recent alerts. Most of the Configuration Manager 2012 R2 features can be generated alerts, which will appear on the overview page of the appropriate workspace. In the following procedure, you will explore various workspaces and navigation panes of Configuration Manager console. Step 1. Exploring the Assets and Compliance workspace console items. Point to the Asset and Compliant workspace. A tooltip appears describing the administrative action that can be performed after selecting the Assets and Compliance workspace. You will also notice that the overview page includes a section for recent alerts. An example of an alert what would be displayed here include when compliance for a configuration baseline has not met the configured threshold, as you can see in the recent alert section of Assets and Compliance overview page. Other nodes in the console, including other workspaces, can also display alerts. The nodes of the Assets and Compliance navigation pane include Users, used to view all users that have been discovered and may display sticky notes for any user collection that members were displayed during the console session. Devices, used to view all devices that have been discovered and may display any sticky notes for any device collection those members have been displayed during this console session. User collections, used to manage collection based on users and user groups. There are 3 built-in user collections. Device collection, used to manage collection based on system information. There are 4 built-in device collections, and this lab environment has 3 custom device collections. User state migration, used to manage the migration of user state between computers, including defining computer associations. Asset intelligence, used to manage software assets with the asset intelligence features, including a dashboard of asset intelligence statistics and status, inventory, software catalog customizations, and hardware requirements. Software metering, used to configure rules for monitoring the usage of software. Compliance settings, used to manage compliance using the Compliance and Settings Management feature, as well as the new Company Resource Access. Features added to Configuration Manager 2012 R2. Endpoint protection, used to configure and deploy anti-malware and Windows firewall policies to collections of clients. As a high-level overview, you can use the Assets and Compliance workspace to manage the organization's assets, users and computers and software, as well as Compliant Configuration Settings Management, previously known as Desired Configuration Management in CM7, and configuring endpoint protection policies. Step 2. Exploring the Software Library Workspace console. Point to the software library. A tooltip appears describing the administrative actions that can be performed after selecting the Software Library Workspace. Click the Software Library Workspace. The Software Library Workspace overview page appears. Notice that the Software Library overview page displays options similar to those of the Assets and Compliance overview page, including nodes in the navigation pane in the Navigation Index section. You will also notice that the overview page includes a section for recent alerts. These are alerts generated when application or software updates deployments are below the administrator configured threshold for success, as well as the synchronization of the software update point site system fails. The nodes of the Software Library navigation pane include Application Management, used to manage software deployments to users and clients, including applications and packages, programs, approving application requests from users, and managing global conditions. Also included here are alerts for deployments that are below the configured threshold for success, as well as alerts for any deployments that experience a failure rate of a designated percentage. Software updates, used to manage aspects of software update deployments to clients, including update metadata, software update groups, software updates, deployment packages, and automatic deployment rules. Also included here are alerts for deployments that are below the configured threshold for success, as well as any failed synchronization attempts, which you see in the lab environment. Operating systems, used to manage all aspects of operating system deployment to systems, including drivers, drive packages, operating system images, operating system installers, boot images, task sequences, and virtual hard disks. As a high-level overview, you can use the Software Library Workspace to manage software distribution, software update deployment, and operating system deployment. Exploring the Monitoring Workspace console. Pointing to the Monitoring Workspace console, a tooltip appears describing the administrative action that can be performed after selecting the Monitoring Workspace. Click the Monitoring Workspace. The Monitoring Workspace overview page appears. Notice that the Monitoring overview page displays options similar to those of the other workspace overview pages, including nodes in the navigation pane in the Navigation Index section. You will also notice that the overview page includes a section for recent alerts. An example of an alert displayed here would be when the database replication between two sites in a hierarchy has been determined to be down due to link issues. Other nodes in the console, including other workspaces, can also display alerts. The nodes of the Monitoring navigation pane include alerts, used to manage alerts generated in the environment. You may see a few active alerts in the lab environment due to other virtual images not being available or no internet access for software update synchronization to complete successfully. Queries, used to manage queries, both built-in and custom queries. Reporting, used to display results of built-in or custom reports using SQL Server reporting services and configure report subscriptions. Site hierarchy, used to display a map of the site hierarchy, central administration site, primary sites, and any secondary sites. System status, used to monitor the site status for components, site system status messages, queries, and any conflict records. Deployments, used to monitor all deployments of application packages and programs, software updates, operating system images, and configuration baselines. Client operations, used to monitor all real-time actions initiated from the Configuration Manager console to Configuration Manager 2012 clients, such as policy retrievals and endpoint protection action. Client status, used to monitor the health and activity of Configuration Manager clients in the site and hierarchy. Database replication, used to monitor the status of the replication of Configuration Manager data between sites using SQL-based database replication. Distribution status, used to monitor content replication status, distribution point group status, and distribution point health. Software update point synchronization status, used to monitor the status of software update catalog synchronization. Endpoint protection status. This node includes two dashboards that provide a quick view into the health of the site clients in terms of any malware activity and the endpoint protection client agent, the agent health and agent of most recent definition file downloaded, as well as the malware that has impacted any of the clients. As a high-level overview, you can use the monitoring workspace to monitor the status of the environment. Point 4. Exploring the administration workspace console. Pointing to the administration tooltip, a tooltip appears describing the administrative actions that can be performed after selecting the administration workspace. The administration overview page appears. Notice that the administration overview page displays options similar to those of the other workspace overview pages, including nodes in the navigation page in a navigation index section. You will now explore more deeply the workspace to become more familiar with the console and features before moving on to other features of the console and the Configuration Manager 2012 R2 product. On the ribbon, click the drop-down arrow above all objects. A new menu appears displaying options for the Configuration Manager console. Notice that you can connect to a different Configuration Manager site. Connect via Windows PowerShell to get access to the PowerShell provider to run commandlets against Configuration Manager. Get information about the Configuration Manager version, access product documentation, which is all web-based. Configure integration with the Customer Experience Improvement Program, which you can configure participating during Configuration Manager setup and closing the console. Click Site Configuration. The administration overview page displays a navigation index section for the site configuration node. Notice that the node links in the navigation index section display the subnodes for site configuration, sites and servers, and site system roles. In the navigation pane, expand the site configuration. The subnodes of site configuration are displayed in the navigation pane. Notice that they match those displayed in the navigation index section. In the navigation pane, click Sites. Note the sites in the hierarchy from the local site database, the local site, and any child sites appear in the result pane. Notice that there is only one site displayed for this portion of the hierarchy, and that is the local site MCM. Now click Servers and Site System roles. The site systems and installed roles for the site appear in the result pane. Note that there are three site systems displayed: Member, which is the distribution point, and Primary 1, which is the site server, and various other roles. You will also notice an additional site system, ManageMicrosoft.com. This is a special site system running the distribution point site role for maintaining content targeted to mobile devices connected through Windows Intune integration. Notice also that a new tab appears on the ribbon titled Site Role. The site system role installed for the selected site system are displayed in the preview pane. There are 2 roles on Member and Manage Microsoft.com with 13 site system roles installed, primary 1. In a production environment, you would very likely use multiple site systems to host all the various roles instead of having them all installed in one computer. Click Component Server. The ribbon displays no specific task for this specific site system role, as there is nothing to configure for the Component Server site system role. Notice on the Site Role tab, the role properties and remove role action are not available for the specific role. Now click Distribution Point. The ribbon displays tasks for this specific site role on the Site Role tab, such as remove role and role properties, as these are actions that can be configured for the Distribution Point site system role. The nodes of the Administration Navigation pane include hierarchy configuration, used to configure discovery methods, boundaries and boundary groups, exchange connectors for mobile devices, as well as configuring replication to other sites in the hierarchy. You can also view discovered Active Directory for sets from here. Cloud services, used to configure a Windows Intune subscription for integration with Windows iTunes, as well as to configure distribution points to be hosted in Windows Azure and install new features for Windows Intune. Site configuration, used to configure site properties, site system properties, site maintenance tasks, client installation methods, and status messaging. You can also initiate a secondary site installation from here. Client settings, used to configure client settings for the hierarchy or individual collections, including hardware inventory classes to be reported, replacements of the SMS dev mob file from previous releases of System Management Server and Configuration Manager 2007. Security, used to manage Configuration Manager administrator accounts, security roles and security scopes, certificate and accounts used for operations such as client push installation account. Distribution points, used to manage distribution points, which there are 2 of in this lab environment, including used and free space, as well as group membership. Distribution point groups, used to display distribution point groups and their members. Migration, used to manage migration of Configuration Manager 2007, Configuration Manager 2012 SP1, or Configuration Manager 2012 R2 sites and objects to Configuration Manager 2012 R2. As a high-level overview, you can use the administration workspace to manage the items in the site settings from the Configuration Manager 2012 Administrator Console.
Number 2. Searching and filtering in the Configuration Manager console. In this exercise, we will use the Configuration Manager console to find specific results using the search and filter capabilities of Configuration Manager. This can help more easily identify resources in results sets with large amount of data. The following tasks will be performed on primary 1. First, filtering results in the console. On Assets and Compliance, the Assets and Compliance Overview page appears. In the navigation pane, click Device Collection. The list of collections is displayed in the Result pane. Notice that there are 9 collections in the Result pane. The 4 collections starting with All are built-in or default collections, while the other 5 collections are custom or admin-created collections. In the Result pane, click All Systems, and then on the ribbon Show Members. The All Systems collection is added as a sticky note in the navigation pane under Devices. The list of members of All System collection is displayed in the Result pane. Notice that there are 17 members of All System collections. In the search box, we type Client and then click Search. The list of filtered collection members are displayed in the Result pane. Notice that there are now only 7 of the 17 members displayed. Filtering allows you to reduce the scope of items displayed for easy identification of the object you are looking for. Second, adding additional criteria to a search. In the search box, type client and then click search. The list of filtered collection members are displayed in the result pane. Notice that there are now only 7 of the 17 members in the All Systems collection displayed. We add a criteria. A set of criteria for selection is displayed below at Criteria. The criteria represents the fields that are displayed in the results pane of devices. We select Name and Add. The selected search criterion appears just below the search box. Notice that Name appears as an AND with an operator of contains. In the box after and name contains, type client. Click contains. A drop-down list appears displaying the operators that can be set for this search criterion. Notice that there are 8 different operators available. Click Starts with and then click Search. The list of devices whose name begins with the text client appears in the result pane. Notice that the list now displays only 4 devices whose name starts with client. Reset the search to all devices with the name that includes client by resetting the criteria from starts with to contains. The list of devices with names that contain the text client appears in the result pane. Notice that the list now displays 7 devices. Third, saving local search results. On the ribbon, click Save Current Search. A Configuration Manager message box appeared allowing you to name the search. In the search name box, type devices containing client in the name and then click OK. The list of devices with the names that contain the text client appears in the result pane. Notice that the list now displays 7 devices. We have to go back to a previous step right after naming the search as devices containing client in the name. On the ribbon, click Saved Searches. And click Manage Searches for the current node. The Manage Searches for Current Node dialog box appears displaying all saved searches for the devices node. Notice that there is only one saved search displayed. Devices containing client in the name. Click OK. The list of devices with names that contain the text client appears in the result pane. Notice that the list now displays 7 devices. At the end of the search box, click X. The full list of devices in the All System collection appears at the result pane. Fourth, performing global searches. Click the Administration workspace. The Administration workspace appears displaying the list of distribution points in the site. On the ribbon, click Saved Searches. A menu appears with options for displaying saved searches for all objects. Click Manage Searches for all objects. The Manage Searches for all objects dialog box appears displaying the saved searches. Notice that the devices containing client in the name searches does not appear. Local searches are only available for the node they were created. from, in this case, the devices node of the Assets and Compliance workspace. Click Cancel. The ribbon displays search options. You had just done a local search and saved it. However, Configuration Manager can also perform a global search, which can search the entire admin console and database for information. In the navigation pane, expand Hierarchy Configuration and then click Discovery Manage. Methods. The available discovery methods appear in the result pane. Notice that there are 6 discovery methods available. In the search box below the ribbon, type Client and then click Search. The discovery methods that contain the string client in them are displayed in the result pane. Notice that 2 results are returned, as only 2 of the 6 discovery methods contain client in the description field. By default, this was implemented as a local search. On the Search tab of the ribbon, click All Objects. The result of the previous search are removed. In the search box below the ribbon, type Client and then click Search. The result pane displays all items that contain the string client. Notice that there are 41 results are returned. All those items contain client in some attribute of the object. Also notice that the result pane displays the name, object type, and the workspace of each object that matches the global search. In the result pane under Name, click English Updates, all desktops and servers. The summary information for a specific software update group deployment appears in the preview pane. On the ribbon, click Close to remove the search. You have now experienced various methods of searching for data in the Configuration Manager console, including local searches, saved searches, and global searches. You can also save global searches which then can be run from any node in any workspace at any time. 3. Exploring Configuration Manager 2012 R2 features. In this exercise, you will use the Configuration Manager console to explore some of the new features that are available in Configuration Manager 2012 R2. This will provide some base knowledge for any additional labs or hands-on experience you will have with Configuration Manager 2012 R2. Some of the features explored in the exercise were included in the 2 previous versions of Configuration Manager 2012, however, are new from Configuration Manager 2007. The following tasks were performed on Primary 1. First, exploring site administration features. In the Administration workspace, the Administration workspace appears displaying whatever node was last accessed in the workspace. If you had not changed from the previous exercise, you would be on the Discovery Methods. With no result displayed in the result pane, you would need to change nodes to view results from the previous global search performed. In the navigation pane, expand Hierarchy Configuration and then Discovery Methods. The 6 available discovery methods appear in the result pane. Most of these are the same discovery methods from Configuration Manager 2007. Configuration Manager 2012 R2 does include a new discovery method, however, that being Active Directory Forest Discovery. Additionally, the Active Directory Security Group Discovery and Active Directory System Group Discovery methods have been merged into a single discovery method, Active Directory Group Discovery. In the result pane, click Active Directory System Discovery. The list of actions for this discovery method appears on the ribbon. Notice that you can initiate an immediate discovery cycle or access the properties for this discovery method. On the ribbon, click Properties. A dialog box appears displaying the general properties of the discovery method. Notice that there is a configured discovery path. The configuration of a discovery path is very similar to that from Configuration Manager 2007. Click the polling schedule. The Active Directory System Discovery Properties dialog box appears displaying the polling schedule properties of the discovery method. Notice that the discovery method is configured to run a full discovery cycle weekly. Also notice that Configuration Manager R2 includes delta discovery for some of the discovery methods. This feature will query Active Directory on the scheduled interval, 5 minutes by default, to look for new records while ignoring records that are not new for the Active Directory group discovery. It will also find new as well as removed members for the required groups. This will allow for more frequent discovery cycles and get new systems into the Configuration Manager site database more quickly. Click the Option tab. The Active Directory System Discovery Properties dialog box appears displaying the option for excluding system from the discovery method. Notice that you can enable the filtering of computers that have not logged into Active Directory for specific numbers of days, or filter those that have not changed their computer and account password in Active Directory for a specific number of days. These options can help reduce stale records in the Configuration Manager database. You will configure and perform Active Directory System Discovery in the Deploying System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager tab. Click Cancel. The 6 available discovery methods appear in the result pane. In the navigation pane, click Boundary Groups. The available boundary groups appear in the result pane. Boundary groups are used for site assignment for resources, for client push, as well as for content access on distribution points. Notice that here is one boundary group created, that being local clients in MCM. In the result pane, click Local Clients in MCM, and then on the ribbon click Properties. The Local Clients in MCM Properties dialog box appears displaying the properties of the boundary group. Notice that this boundary group includes 2 boundaries, the Active Directory site titled Config Manager site, as well as an IP address range which designates the single Linux client in the lab environment. Click References tab. Note: the Local Clients in MCM Properties dialog box appears and displaying the site that this boundary group is assigned to MCM. Notice also the list of site systems that are associated with the boundary group. In the lab, both the local site server primary 1 and the remote distribution point member are associated with the boundary group. Without associating a distribution point with a boundary group, clients are not able to access content from the distribution point. Click Cancel. The available boundary groups appear in the result pane. In the navigation pane, click Active Directory Forests. The Active Directory forests that have been discovered by the Active Directory Forest Discovery method are displayed in the result pane, with summary information displayed in the preview pane. Notice that there are tabs for domains discovery status as well as publishing status. Notice also that the ribbon provides options to display the discovered Active Directory sites as well as an IP subnet. You will implement Active Directory Forest Discovery in the Deploying System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager lab. In the navigation pane, expand Cloud Services and then click Windows Intune Subscriptions. The list of Windows Intune subscriptions appear in the result pane. Notice that there is one subscription created. This subscription allows the site to manage appropriate devices are connected via Windows Intune, such as Windows 8.1, Windows RT, Windows Phone 8, Apple iOS, and Android. You will see some of those discovered devices later in the lab. In the result pane, click Windows Intune subscription and then On the ribbon, click Properties. The Windows Intune Subscription Properties dialog box appears, displaying the properties of the subscription. Notice the collection of users that are allowed to enroll mobile devices, the company name, color scheme, and local site code. Click the Android tab. The Windows Intune Subscription Property dialog box appears, displaying the status of Android support for the subscription. Notice that the site is not currently configured to support Android devices. However, there is no special certificate requirements for supporting Android devices. Click on iOS tab. The Windows Intune Subscription Properties dialog box appears, displaying the status of iOS support for the subscription. Notice that the site is configured to support iOS devices and required APN certificate has been provisioned. Click the Windows tab. The Windows Intune Subscription Properties dialog box appears, displaying the status of Windows RT and Windows 8.1 support for the subscription. Notice that the site is configured to support appropriate Windows devices and the code signing certificate has been provisioned. Windows 8 Phone. The Windows Intune Subscription Properties dialog box appears, displaying the status of Windows Phone 8 support for the subscription. Notice that the site is configured to support Windows 8 phones with the appropriate certificate and company portal app provisioned. Click Cancel. The list of Windows Intune subscription appears in the result pane. In the navigation pane, click Cloud Distribution Points. The list of subscription points created and hosted in the cloud Windows Azure appears in the result pane. Notice that there are no cloud-based distribution points created. However, if you have a Windows Azure account, you can configure one to be hosted in Windows Azure instead of being hosted on-premise. These distribution points are different than the manage.microsoft.com distribution point you noticed earlier in the lab, which is hosted in Windows Intune. Click Extension for Windows Intune. The list of additions or extension for Windows Intune integration appears in the result pane. Notice that there are no extensions available. This feature allows new additions to the integration between Configuration Manager and Windows Intune to be installed without having to wait for a service pack or new releases. At the time of the lab creation, there are no extensions available. Client settings. The client settings appear in the preview pane. Notice that default client setting is displayed as well as custom client setting. Data center services. In Configuration Manager 2012 R2, client settings are by default hierarchy-wide the default configuration or can be uniquely configured per collection, as you could do with the data center servers. In the result pane, the default client settings, and then on the ribbon click Properties. The default settings dialog box appears, displaying the various client settings that you can set. These settings are hierarchy-wide settings and would impact all clients in all sites in the hierarchy, unless those clients have specific client settings configured on a per collection base. Modifying default client setting is similar to what you would do in Configuration Manager 2007 in the Client Agent node. This also includes the ability to manage settings for hardware inventory via the smsdev.mov file. Click Cancel. The client settings appear in the preview pane. Notice that there are two settings, the default set as well as the custom client setting. Custom client settings take priority over the default client setting for those clients in the collection. Any custom client settings are assigned to the data center servers. Custom setting is assigned to the server clients collection. You can view the collection assignment by clicking the Deployments tab in the preview pane. In the result pane, click Data Center Server and then click Properties. The Data Center Servers dialog box appears, displaying the various client settings that are included in this custom setting. Notice that this custom setting only includes two client settings that are configured to override the default, those being Power Management and Remote Control. Configuration Manager 2012 R2 also includes a new feature in the console to view the result of applying multiple client settings to a single client. You will explore that later in the lab when exploring the Assets and Compliance workspace. Click Cancel. The client settings appear in the result pane. You will experience implementing custom client agent settings and the managing clients in the System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager lab. In the navigation pane, expand Security and then Administrative Users. The defined administrative accounts appear in the result pane. By default, there is only one administrative account, that being Config Manager DOM Administrator, which was the account that was used to install the site. However, this lab environment also has two custom administrative users, Desktop Admin and Server Admin. Notice also that the preview pane provides additional info such as the security roles, security scopes, and collection assigned to the selected account. Click Security Roles. The defined security role appear in the result pane. Notice that there are 15 security roles displayed, all built-in security roles. Configuration Manager 2012 R2 includes one new security scope role from previous versions of Configuration Manager 2012, that being the Company Resource Access Manager role. However, you can also create custom roles that are based on existing security roles. Notice that the results pane also indicates the number of administrative users that are assigned to each individual security role. Only the application administrator and full administrator roles are currently assigned to any administrative user. In the navigation pane, click Security Scopes. The defined security scopes appear in the result pane. Notice that there are 4 security scopes displayed, 2 of which are built-in security scopes, Default and All, and 2 custom scopes, Desktops and Servers. The security environment in Configuration Manager 2012 R2 is very different from what Configuration Manager 2007 included. You will create new security scopes and administrative users and complete a deployment of role-based administration in the Implementing Role-Based Administration in System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager lab. In the navigation pane, click Distribution Points. The distribution points in the site and any child sites below the site appear in the result pane. Notice that the site has 3 distribution points, one being the site server primary one, another being member, as well as the Windows Intune-based distribution point manage.microsoft.com. Notice also that the preview pane displays additional properties of the distribution point, including how many groups it is a member of, whether or not it is protected, configured, and pre-staging. Configured for PXE or multicast, and if it's configured for content validation. Finally, notice that both these distribution points are listed as on-premises rather than cloud distribution points, which manage.microsoft.com is listed as. In the result pane, click Primary One Config Manager DOM.local, and then in the preview pane, click the Drives tab. The status of each drive on the distribution point appears in the preview pane. Notice that the preview pane displays the drives on the distribution point, including total and free space, and the priority, which is used to determine where to distribute content. You may not be able to see the drive configuration of the member distribution point, as it is not an active virtual machine or to query. In the result pane, click member config manager dom.local, and then on the ribbon click Properties. The member config manager dom.local properties dialog box appears, displaying general properties for the distribution. Click the Pull Distribution Point tab. Sorry, this was wrong. Member Properties. Pull Distribution Point. The properties related to being a pull distribution point are displayed in the member configuration manager dom.local properties. Notice that this distribution point is a pull distribution point instead of a push-based distribution point. Notice also that it is configured to pull from the site server distribution point. Click Cancel. There are no configurable options for the manage.microsoft.com distribution point. In the navigation pane, click Distribution Point Groups. The distribution point groups in the site appear in the result pane. Notice that there are no distribution point group displayed. Distribution point groups are state-based in Configuration Manager 2012 R2, which means any new distribution point added to an existing group will automatically receive any content previously targeted to that group. You can experience more features for managing distribution points in the Managing Content in System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager Lab. In the navigation pane, click Migration. The Migration Getting Started page appears, displaying the results of any migrations from Configuration Manager 2007 to Configuration Manager 2012 R2. Notice that there has not been any mapping of a Configuration Manager 2007 site to migrate to Configuration Manager 2012 R2 yet. You will perform a migration from Configuration Manager 2007 to Configuration Manager 2012 R2 in the Migrating from Configuration Manager 2007 to System Center 2012 Configuration Manager Lab. You have now looked at a few of the new features of Configuration Manager 12 R2 in the area of site administration. Second, exploring software deployment features. Click on the Software Library workspace. The Software Library workspace navigation index page appears. Notice that there are 1 recent alerts related to software deployment, that being for low site loading activations available for the site. You can configure other alerts for actual deployments of application software updates or operating systems. In the navigation pane, expand Application Management and then Application. The list of applications appear in the result pane. Notice that there are 9 applications in the site. Applications are the replacement for packages that you are familiar with from Configuration Manager 2007. Notice also that the preview pane displays information on the selected application from the results pane. The information in the preview pane includes the number of distribution points that contain the application content, the number of deployment types similar to the program from Configuration Manager 2007, and deployments similar to advertisements. In the result pane, click CCM Tools, and then in the preview pane, click the Deployment Types tab. The deployment types for the CCM Tools application appear in the preview pane. Notice that this application only has 1 deployment type and that it's a Windows installer based deployment type. Deployment types replace Configuration Manager 2007 programs. A single application can have multiple deployment types, such as Windows installer, virtual applications, and Windows mobile cabinet files. In the preview pane, click the Deployment tab. The list of deployments for the CCM Tools application appear in the preview pane. Notice that the application only has 1 deployment. Deployments replace Configuration Manager 2007 advertisements. Notice also that the deployment is required mandatory and that is currently 88.9 successfully developed for all targeted systems, members of all desktops and server clients collection. The one client that is not installed application is the Linux client, which this application is not applicable for, as Linux Unix client can only receive programs from packages and not applications, as standard Windows clients can. In the result pane, click Rich Copy and then in the preview pane click Deployment Types. The deployment type for Rich Copy application appear in the preview pane. Notice that this application has two deployment types, one Windows Installer based deployment and one AppV based deployment type. In the result pane, click PowerPoint Viewer. And then in the preview pane, click the Deployments tab. The deployments for the PowerPoint Viewer application appear in the preview pane. Notice that the application only has one deployment and that the deployment has a purpose of simulate with the compliance of 88.9, the same Linux client issue as mentioned above. A simulated deployment is a process to evaluate the rules of an application to evaluate whether or not the application could have installed if deployed as a real deployment instead of a simulated deployment. This is a new feature in Configuration Manager 2012. In the navigation pane under Application Management, click Packages. The list of packages in the site appears in the result pane. Notice that there are 4 packages in the site. One default package for installing clients, one for Microsoft Math, one for Linux client, Operations Manager client for Linux, and one for USMT packages in the Configuration Manager 2012 R2 are very similar to packages in the Configuration Manager 2007. They do not take advantage of any of the new application features. However, do allow migration path for older packages not converted to applications. In the result pane, click Microsoft Math and then in the preview pane, click Programs tab. The programs for the package appear in the preview pane. Notice that there are 6 programs. Notice also that the preview pane displays properties for the programs, including the command line, which is a Windows installer installation. In the preview pane, click the Deployments tab. The deployments for the package appear in the preview pane. Notice that there is one deployment for this package and the information indicate that the deployment is required, mandatory, the target collection, and that is currently 88.9% compliant. You will experience application management in the Basic Software Distribution in System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager, as well as the Advanced Software Distribution in System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager Lab. In the navigation pane under Applications Management, click Approval Request. The list of requests for application approvals appear in the result pane. Notice that there are no pending approval requests. However, there is one request that was denied. Applications can be configured to require approval from an administrator before they can deploy to target users. You will implement application requests in the Advanced Software Distribution in System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager Lab. In the navigation pane under Application Management, click Global Conditions. The global conditions available in the site appear in the result pane. Notice that there are 20 global conditions available. Global conditions allow you to add conditions to an application that must be satisfied before the application can be deployed on that client. You can create your own global conditions as well as use the built-in global conditions. Configuration Manager 2012 R2 added 2 new global conditions, both for ownership of a device, either company or personal, which is primarily targeted for mobile devices. You will create and use global conditions as in the Advanced Software Distribution in System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager Lab. In the navigation pane, click AppV Virtual Environments. The list of virtual environments for AppV5-based application appears in the result pane. Notice that there is one virtual environment for allowing Office and Visio, two unique AppV5 sequenced applications, to share data such as documents. You will create a virtual environment in the Deploying Virtual Application in System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager Lab. In the navigation pane, expand Software Updates and then click All Software Updates. The list of software updates that have been synchronized in the site appears in the result pane. Notice that the preview pane includes information about the selected update in the result pane, including general information about the update, as well as the current compliance data. In the result pane, click English Update 1. The information for English Update 1 appears in the preview pane. Notice that the current client compliance for this update indicates that 7 clients do not require the update. 1 is compliant, 0 clients require the update, and there is no status from 1 client, the Linux client. In the preview pane, click the Deployment tab. The deployment information for English 1 appears in the preview pane. Notice that the update is targeted to all desktop and server clients collection and was deployed via a software update group. In the navigation pane, click Software Update Groups. The list of software update groups in the site appears in the result pane. Notice that there are 2 software update groups, one with Patch Tuesday as part of the name. This software update group was automatically created by an automatic grouping rule, which you will see later. The other software group that was used to deploy English Update 1 that you just viewed status for. In the result pane, click English Update. The summary information for this update group appears in the preview pane. Notice that the update group indicates compliance for 8 of the 9 clients. On the ribbon, click Show Members. A sticky note titled English Update appears in the navigation pane under All Software Updates. Notice that the software updates in the software update group appears in the result pane. Notice also that the compliance information of the selected updates appears in the preview pane. In the navigation pane, click Deployment Packages. The deployment packages for the site appear in the result pane. Notice that there is one deployment package. In the result pane, click Lab Critical Updates and then on the ribbon click Show Members. The preview pane displays the software updates that are included in the selected package. Notice that English Update 1 as well as 4 other updates is included in this deployment package. Notice also that the compliance information for the selected update is displayed in the preview pane. In the navigation pane, click Automatic Deployment Rules. The automatic deployment rules for the site appear in the result pane. Notice that there is one automatic deployment rule. Automatic deployment rules allow administrators to automatically deploy software updates when specific conditions are satisfied on the update, such as all updates with a specific severity, classification, data released, and so on. You will experience more with software updates and automatic deployment rules in the Implementing Software Updates in System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager Lab. In the navigation pane, click Operating Systems. The Operating Systems navigation index page appears, displaying the various objects of operating system deployment that can be configured in Configuration Manager 2012 R2. There are only a few changes in Configuration Manager 2012 operating system deployment that are different than Configuration Manager 2007 in terms of operating system deployment. So this lab will only look at one of the new features of operating systems deployment. The lab environment does include drivers a driver package and operating system image. You can view them if you want, however, the lab will not have you view those items. In the navigation pane, expand the operating system, click Task Sequence, and then on the ribbon click Create Task Sequence Media. The Create Task Sequence Media wizard select Media Type dialog box appears, displaying the 4 types of media that can be created. The first 3 types are the same as Configuration Manager 2007, while the last type, Pre-staged Media, is new for both Configuration Manager 2012 as Configuration Manager 2007 R3. This media allows the customer to provide media to a hardware vendor to pre-stage the operating system and bootable media on the new computer's hard drive, shortening the deployment time when the computer reached the customer's environment. Configuration Manager 2012 SP1 adds the capability of adding additional content into the pre-staged media file. Click Cancel. On the ribbon, click Create Task Sequence. The Create Task Sequence wizard creates new task sequences. Dialog box appears, displaying the 4 types of task sequences that can be created. 3 of the types are the same as in previous releases of Configuration Manager, while the third one, Install an existing image package to a virtual hard drive, is new for Configuration Manager 2012 R3. R2. This allows you to deploy an existing operating system image to a virtual hard disk instead of a computer, as the first task sequence completes. Click Cancel. The list of task sequences in the site appears. Notice that there are no task sequences created in the site, as there are very few differences in the operating system deployment feature in Configuration Manager 2012 R2. There is no additional information in this lab on the feature. On new feature in Configuration Manager 2012 R2 is related to the new task sequence option you just explored. That is the virtual hard disk node. This allows you to create and manage virtual hard disk from Configuration Manager. To do so, the System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager console must be installed on a computer that also has Hyper-V installed, which the lab site server does not, so you can't explore that feature in the virtual lab environment. Additional features that have been added to Configuration Manager 2012 R2 in terms of operating system deployment include offline services of images. This provides automated updating for OS images with new software updates. Hierarchy-wide boot media. In previous releases, boot media was only used for the site it was created on. Pre-execution hooks. This allows you to provide users interface to prompt users for questions to populate task sequences variables. And USMT 4.0 hardlink support, including Configuration Manager console support. You will experience more on operating system deployment, including an end-to-end deployment to a bare metal system in the deployment Windows 8.1 to bare metal system in System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager Lab. Third, exploring monitoring features. In the navigation pane, expand Alerts and then click All Alerts. The alerts of the site appear in the result pane. Notice that there are 7 alerts configured in the environment. Notice that the preview pane indicates that one active alert is for standard corporate system, all desktop and server clients, and the type is configuration baseline compliance. You will explore this later in this lab. A second active alert is for slow side loading activations. You saw this alert earlier in the lab. Notice also that the ribbon allows you to configure or postpone this alert. Any cancelled or postponed alerts are ones that had been initially triggered, then cancelled or postponed as the condition that raised the alert was later satisfied to meet the desired SLA. These alerts display in the appropriate workspace also. In the navigation pane, click Queries. The list of queries in the site appear in the result pane. Notice that there are 17 built-in queries. However, you can create your own or import previously created queries. Configuration Manager 2012 R2 adds 3 new queries specifically around mobile device management, including all jailbroken or rooted device, all company-owned device, and all personal devices. In the navigation pane, expand Reporting and then click Reports. The list of reports in the site appears in the result pane. Notice that there are 491 reports available. So if you do not see any reports, that start the SQL Server report servings and then refresh the list of reports again. The main difference between Configuration Manager 2007 and Configuration Manager 2012 for reporting is that the only reporting solution in Configuration Manager 2012 is thorough integration with SQL Server reporting services. In the result pane, click Client Status Summary. And then on the ribbon, click Run. The Client Status Summary report window appears, prompting for the collection to report client status for. After collection, click Values. The Parameter Value dialog box appears, displaying the available collections. Under Collection, click Configuration Manager Clients and then click OK. The Client Status Summary report window appears, displaying the collection to report on and the default value for the client version to report Configuration Manager 2012 clients only. Click View Report. The Client Status Summary report window appeared, displaying the results for the report for active clients that have passed client health evaluation. Notice that the report was rendering using SQL Server reporting services. Close the Client Status Summary report window. The list of reports appear in the result pane. Notice that you also create subscriptions to have reports rendered on a schedule, exporting the report's result on a designated file type. In the navigation pane, click Site Hierarchy. The Site Hierarchy page appears, displaying the hierarchy that this site is a member of. This node provides a visual display of the site's hierarchy if you have one. In the lab environment, as with most environments, has only a single site. In the Deploying a System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager Hierarchy Lab, you will install 3 unique sites in the hierarchy and will review them in the Site Hierarchy page. In the navigation pane, click Deployments. The deployments for the site appear in the result pane. Notice that there are 12 deployments available. Notice also that the result pane indicates the purpose, action and feature type for each deployment. Notice also that the preview pane displays status information on the selected deployment in a graph as well as a table. In the result pane, click CCM Tools and then on the ribbon View Status. A sticky note for deployments appears in the navigation pane under Deployments. Notice that a tab for success appears in the result pane, with the assets that have reported a success status appear in the preview pane. In the navigation pane, click Deployments and then in the result pane, click PowerPoint Viewer. In the navigation pane, click Deployments, and then in the result pane, click PowerPoint Viewer. The status of the PowerPoint Viewer deployment appears in the preview pane. Notice that the purpose is listed as Simulate. This is the simulated deployment you viewed previously while viewing applications. Notice also that the completion statistics indicates 5 systems have requirements not met. If you recall, when you viewed the deployment in the software library workspace, it displayed compliance of 88.9%. A status of requirements not met is considered compliant as the deployment archived the administrator's intent, which was to only be successfully run on clients that met the requirements. The one unknown system is the Linux client computer, which is a member of the target collection for the simulated deployment. Under Total Asset Count, view Status. A sticky note for deployment appears in the navigation pane. Under Deployments, notice on the Requirements Not Met tab that the requirement not met was the operating system, which was not a valid version for the PowerPoint Viewer application for a number of clients. You will experience more with deployment monitoring in the various labs on software distribution, software updates, and settings management. In the navigation pane, click Client Status. The Client Status dashboard appears, displaying client status for the site. Notice that the statistics are displayed for a specific collection, in this case the All Desktops and Server Client collection, and that all clients passed the client health evaluation. However, there are 8 clients that are considered inactive. Notice also that there are no errors and no alerts generated. If the status indicates that some clients are in a failed or inactive state, that is due to the fact that those client images are not available for this lab, and thus may have failed subsequent health and activity checks. You will experience more with the client health features of Configuration Manager 2012 in the Managing Clients in System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager. In the navigation pane, click Database Replication. The status for any site-to-site replication using SQL Server Replication appears in the result pane. As this environment contains only a single site, there is no information to report on. In the Deploying a System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager hierarchy lab, you will install 3 unique sites in a hierarchy. You can view database replication status in a hierarchy. In the navigation pane, expand Distribution Status and then click on Content Status. The content available appears in the result pane with details on the selected content displayed in the preview pane. Notice that the status of all distributed content is 100%. The 2 boot images and a few other types of content have been targeted to any distribution points. This is the location that you would validate that content has been staged on distribution points for your clients to access for deployments. In the navigation pane, click Software Update Point Synchronization Status. The status of the most recent software update point synchronization attempt appears in the result pane with details on the displayed in the preview pane. Notice that the last synchronization attempt was completed and the catalog version is 1. You will experience software update point synchronization in the Implementing Software Updates in System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager lab. In the navigation pane, expand Endpoint Protection Status. Click System Center 2012 R2 Endpoint Protection Status. The System Center 2012 R2 Endpoint Protection Status dashboard appears, displaying the current status for endpoint protection in Configuration Manager 2012 R2. The dashboard displays the security state and operational state of the clients in the selected collection, which defaults to the All System collection. However, can be changed to other collections such as Configuration Manager clients As the lab is currently set to, the dashboard displays any configuration issues with clients, any clients that have been affected by malware, as well as the definition status on computer. Notice that there are 2 clients that the platform does not support endpoint protection. Those would be mobile devices, as well as 12 client devices that are inactive. One of them is at risk. Notice that is another node under endpoint protection status titled malware detected. This node will provide additional details on malware or virus outbreaks on clients. In this lab environment, there have been no malware outbreaks. You will experience the end-to-end deployment of System Center 2012 R2 endpoint protection in the Implementing Endpoint Protection in System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager Lab. 4. Exploring the assets and compliance features. Click the Assets and Compliance workspace. The Assets and Compliance workspace appears displaying the members of all systems collection. In the navigation pane, click Users. The list of discovered users appear in the result pane. Notice that there are 10 users that have been discovered. This view is for all users regardless of users collection membership. In the result pane, click Config Manager DOM User 5. And then on the ribbon, click Edit Primary Devices. The Edit Primary Devices dialog box appeared displaying the primary devices associated with the user. Notice that this user has been associated with 4 different devices. This process, called User Device Affinity, allows you to associate users with computers, which then can be used to control application deployment. There are numerous methods to configure UDA relationships between users and computers in Configuration Manager 2012 R2, including mobile devices enrollment as these 4 devices were defined. Click Cancel. The list of discovered users appears in the result pane. In the navigation pane, click Users Collection. The list of collection based on users and user groups membership appear in the result pane. Notice that there are only 3 collections included by default in Configuration Manager 2012 R2 for this node. One for all users groups, another for all users, and one for both discovered users and groups. There is a 4th collection, mobile device users, that is the collection defined with the Windows Intune subscription designated the users that are allowed to enroll mobile devices. This is a custom collection. Notice also that the preview pane displays the number of members in each of the displayed collections. In the navigation pane, click Devices. The list of devices that have been discovered appears in the result pane. Notice that there are 17 devices that have been discovered, including the 2 special devices for unknown computers. This view is for all devices, regardless of device collection membership. Notice also that there are 4 mobile devices in the display, as well as 1 Linux client. These mobile devices are systems that were enrolled through Windows Intune and managed through the integration with Configuration Manager 2012 R2. These 4 mobile devices are a Windows 8.1 RT device, a Windows 8.1 device, a Windows Phone 8 device, and an iOS 7 device. Full inventory data has been collected for them also. In the navigation pane, click Device Collection. The list of collection for system appears in the result pane. Notice that there are 9 collections in the site, 4 built-in collections and 5 custom collections. Notice that the display includes the number of members of each collection and the number of members of the collection that are visible at the local site. Also notice that all collections are limited to the membership results of another collection, other than all system collection. In Configuration Manager 2012 R2, any collection and administrative creators will be limited to the results of another collection. This was optional in Configuration Manager 2007. In the result pane, click Configuration Manager Clients, and then on the ribbon click Show Members. The Configuration Manager client sticky note appears in the navigation pane under Devices with the members of the Configuration Manager clients collection are displayed in the result pane. Notice that there are 13 members in the Configuration Manager client collection, 9 on-premises clients and 4 mobile devices. Notice also that the preview pane includes summary information on the selected resources, the result pane including client activity. There are tabs to display client health status, endpoint protection status, malware details, and the client settings applied to the device. These tabs display relevant information for the specific tab assessed. In the result pane, click Central, and then in the preview pane, click Check Detail tab. The details for the selected client's health activity are displayed in the preview pane. Notice that the last time the client evaluated client health and its last result. In the preview pane, click the client settings. The list of the client settings that have been deployed to the client appears in the preview pane. Notice that the Client Central has 2 settings policies applied to it: default client settings, which all clients get, and data center services.
In the navigation pane, click Asset Intelligence. The Asset Intelligence dashboard appears in the preview pane, displaying status of the Asset Intelligence feature and synchronization point, as well as the inventory and catalog results in both chart and table format. For the most part, the Asset Intelligence feature is essentially the same in Configuration Manager 2012 R2 as it in Configuration Manager 2007, with updated rules and updated application databases. In the navigation pane, click Software Metering. The list of automatically created software metering rules appears in the result pane. Notice that there are 100 software metering rules that are disabled in the site. These are all created automatically based on the client usage information. You can be enabled for client monitoring as appropriate. Software metering in Configuration Manager 2012 is essentially the same as it was in Configuration Manager 2007. In the navigation pane, click Compliance Settings. The Compliance Settings workspace navigation index appears, displaying the nodes you can configure in the site. Notice that the navigation index section also displays the recent alerts for compliance settings. There's one recent alert in the site that indicates the baseline standard corporate system, all desktops and server clients. It's only 33% compliant, which is below the configured threshold of 90%. In the navigation pane, expand Compliance Settings and then click Configuration Items. The list of configuration items appears in the result pane. Notice that the site has a total of 3 configuration items created, including 1 for an application and 2 for unique operating systems. In the navigation pane, under Compliance Settings, click Configuration Baselines. The list of configuration baselines in the site appears in the result pane. Notice that there is 1 configuration baseline in the site. The one has generated an alert, Standard Corporate System. In the result pane, click Standard Corporate System and then on the ribbon click Properties. This feature seems not to be working, so we shift to a navigation pane, Company Resource Access. The Company Resource Access page navigation index appears. Notice that you can manage certificate profiles, VPN profiles and Wi-Fi profiles with Configuration Manager 2012 R2. These are all new features for Configuration Manager 2012 R2. In the navigation pane, expand Company Resources Access and then click VPN Profiles. The list of VPN profiles for the site appears in the result pane, with details on the selected profile in the preview pane. Notice there is one VPN profile created. Though it has not been deployed yet, you can deploy VPN profiles to connections of users for their enrolled mobile devices. In the navigation pane, click Wi-Fi profiles. The list of Wi-Fi profiles for the site appears in the result pane, with details on the selected profile in the preview pane. Notice that there is one Wi-Fi profile created, though it has not been deployed yet. You can deploy Wi-Fi profiles to collections of users for their enrolled mobile devices. In the navigation pane, expand Endpoint Protection and then click Anti-Malware Policies. The list of anti-malware policies appear in the result pane. Notice that there is only one policy available, that being the default client anti-malware policy. This policy gets assigned to all clients that have the System Center 2012 R2 Endpoint Protection client installed. You will experience additional features of endpoint protection, including creating custom anti-malware policies and the implementing endpoint protection system in System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager Lab. Now we explored successfully the Configuration Manager 2012 R2 console and some of the new features of Configuration Manager R2. However, certainly not an exhaustive look at all the new features. This lab should help provide some experience with the new console and features of Configuration Manager 2012 R2. This experience will help with other labs for own lab environments as you prepare for the latest version of Configuration Manager 2012 R2. Thank you and have a great day.